So in today's video, we're going to discuss the top trade idea for each team, for every NBA team. So this is about to be a long one, but very interesting one. And these are very realistic, so stay tuned for it. And now we're going to hop into the first one. So the first team is the Atlanta Hawks. The trade between the Atlanta Hawks and Minnesota Timberwolves is the Atlanta Hawks get the #1 pick, which will be Anthony Edwards for sure, because he's from Georgia, he's from Atlanta. So they're going to draft him to be alongside Trae Young. And the Timberwolves get DeAndre Hunter, a young player that can develop into a great player, and the #6 overall pick. So the reason that this is a great trade for the Hawks is that they get their favorite player from the draft. I'm sure he is, because he's from Atlanta. Now we're going to hop into trade number 2. So team number 2 is the Boston Celtics. So this trade is between the Boston Celtics and the Brooklyn Nets. So the Boston Celtics get a great center, a great defensive and offensive center that can be great in the paint in Jared Allen. And the Brooklyn Nets receive Robert Williams III, which is also a center that played well on the Boston Celtics. Also great defensively and very explosive as a center. Then they get Carson Edwards, a guard, and then they obviously get a 2021 first-round pick, which is lottery protected. So I like this trade for both teams because the Boston Celtics get Jared Allen, which is a great center that can help them get into the next level and try to compete for a real championship in 2020 and the 2021 season. But yeah, so because Jared Allen just great in the paint, great defensively, that just adds up to the Boston Celtics. And obviously for the Brooklyn Nets, they're getting 2 young players in Robert Williams and Carson Edwards that can develop into great players with the Nets coaching staff. Obviously they fired Kenny Atkinson, but they might get a great coach. And they obviously also get a 2021 lottery protected first-round pick from the Boston Celtics. That's definitely great to see right there, because they're just stacking up more and more on first-round draft picks. And then they can use that to trade for a player like Paul George, who has been rumored to possibly be able to leave the Clippers after season 1. That's just crazy to hear of, but yeah, it's possible, obviously, so you never know what they're going to do. But yeah, so now let's hop into trade number 3. So speaking of the Brooklyn Nets, the third team is the Brooklyn Nets. So trade number 3 is between the Brooklyn Nets and the Detroit Pistons. So the Nets receive Blake Griffin, and the Detroit Pistons receive Spencer Dinwiddie, Taurean Prince, and Garrett Temple in return. So first, why this is good for the Brooklyn Nets is that they get the 3rd star to pair up with KD and Kyrie in Brooklyn. And Blake Griffin is definitely that explosive star that they need aside them, that could definitely also space the floor, as he developed a 3-point jump shot recently. So he can definitely play well for the Brooklyn Nets, and they definitely compete for a championship with 3 all-star, superstar type of players. But yeah, so then for the Detroit Pistons, they receive no draft picks, but they receive Spencer Dinwiddie, which is a player that already played with them. If you guys did not know, he did play for the Detroit Pistons earlier in his career, obviously. So he already knows how Detroit is like, so he already has experience there. And I think Detroit would definitely like him now, because he's a point guard that's really high quality, that can really play well and knock down clutch shots whenever they need it. And he's just a great point guard overall. So he's been playing really well for the Nets, even as a backup point guard under Kyrie. But yes, so they get a great point guard, which they definitely need, because they literally have no one that's a great point guard right now for the Pistons. But yes, so then they get a great point guard in Dinwiddie, and they obviously get Garrett Temple, which isn't crazy, but they also get Taurean Prince, which is actually a great young player that played really well for the Brooklyn Nets recently. So I think that's great for the Nets. I mean, for the Pistons, that they're getting another young player to pair alongside Christian Wood and Luke Kennard and all those young guys, especially that they have the #7 overall pick, and they probably can get like a Killian Hayes or someone like that in the draft if they don't trade it out. But yeah, so this is great for both teams. And now let's get into trade number 4. So the 4th team is the Charlotte Hornets. So trade number 4 is obviously with the Charlotte Hornets, and it's with the 76ers as well. So the Hornets are getting from the 76ers, they are getting the 2020 #21 overall pick from the Oklahoma City Thunder, and then 2020 2nd-round pick from the New York Knicks, and shooting guard Zaire Smith and center Al Horford. And the 76ers are receiving Terry Rozier and Cody Zeller. So the reason that this is good for both sides is that the 76ers get rid of Al Horford's contract as he goes to the Charlotte Hornets. And obviously the Hornets are getting a lot of picks in this year's draft. And yeah, so they're getting a ton of stuff for Al Horford's expiring, or not expiring contract. Al Horford's big contract, obviously, which anyways his trade value is low, really low right now. So the Sixers have to like remove his salary off their books, you know what I'm saying? So they're gonna trade him to the Hornets, but they're obviously gonna have to trade draft picks as well. So that's obvious right there. But the Hornets are also getting rid of Terry Rozier's contract and Cody Zeller's contract. So that's definitely not bad for them, although they're obviously getting Al Horford's, but it's definitely not bad for them as well because they're getting a ton of first-round picks and they're getting Zaire Smith, which actually isn't a bad player. They're getting first-round picks, they're getting second-round picks, so it's not bad definitely for them. And this was trade number 4. So the 5th team is the Chicago Bulls. So the trade will include the Minnesota Timberwolves with the Bulls, and the Bulls get the 2020 number 1 overall pick, which might be LaMelo Ball, and power forward James Johnson, which doesn't even matter just to make the salaries work. And obviously, the Timberwolves get the 4th overall pick, 2020 second-round pick from the Memphis Grizzlies, and Thaddeus Young, Chandler Hutchinson, and Daniel Gafford. So I think this is actually a very good trade for both teams because both teams are getting what they want. And obviously, the Timberwolves are getting the number 4th pick, which can maybe be, again, like a Denny Avdia or an Obi Toppin or Onyeka Okongwu. You know, don't forget about him. There's a lot of players there, Killian Hayes, whatever they want as the number 4th overall pick. James Wiseman, maybe if he falls there, but probably not. But yes, I mean, this is about to be something great because also the Timberwolves get a lot of young players like Daniel Gafford. They get Thaddeus Young and stuff like that. They get Chandler Hutchinson. They get another second-round pick from the Memphis Grizzlies, and obviously the number 4th pick, and Thaddeus Young and Daniel Gafford. That's just a lot of players right there that I think that they should take the risk on. And obviously, they're getting the number 4th pick, which also they've been rumored to obviously trade down, as I've been mentioning earlier in the video. So this is definitely possible if the Bulls want to do it. The Timberwolves can definitely make that type of trade happen. They're getting a lot in return, and the Bulls are obviously getting the number 1 overall pick, and James Johnson, which obviously doesn't matter, but the number 1 overall pick is definitely what they might want, obviously, which is probably LaMelo Ball. But yeah, so now we're gonna hop into trade number 6. So the 6th team is the Cleveland Cavaliers. So the Cavs trade partner is the New York Knicks. So the New York Knicks received Kevin Love from the Cavs, a big contract obviously, and the Cavs received the Knicks' big contract in Julius Randle and Elfrid Payton. So this is basically almost a full just swap between Randle and Love. Payton really doesn't count that much. So I think this is a decent trade for both sides. Obviously, the Knicks are getting a not that young player in Kevin Love, but he can still space the floor at an elite level. So I definitely like that idea for the Knicks because Randle just couldn't do that. And you guys should agree with that, obviously. And I know Randle is much younger and stuff, but he did not space the floor. He's a lefty and stuff. So I like Kevin Love's ability to space the floor at an elite level. He's very experienced, which is probably what the Knicks want with Tom Thibodeau, obviously. So, and the Cavs obviously get Julius Randle, which is a nice addition to their young core in Darius Garland, Colin Sexton, and also their other players. Their other young players with Jetty Osman, obviously, and now they got Julius Randle. So that's definitely a nice addition. They get rid of Kevin Love's contract, and they get Elfrid Payton as well. So no draft picks being involved with this, so Knicks fans and Cavs fans shouldn't worry about that part of it, obviously. But yeah, so this was trade number 6, but now let's hop into trade number 7. So the 7th team is the Dallas Mavericks. So the team that are trading with the Mavericks are the Los Angeles Clippers. So the Mavericks receive Patrick Beverley, a defensive point guard, and the Clippers receive Maxi Kleber, DeLon Wright, and a 2020 second-round pick from the Golden State Warriors. So the reason this is good for the Mavericks is that they receive a defensive-minded point guard, as I've said, in Patrick Beverley, that can definitely do great things on defense against big players, even with his small frame, obviously. And obviously, as a backup point guard, that's definitely nice. with Jalen Brunson and all those guys right there, with Luka and Porzingis, would definitely not be bad. Would definitely boost their defense up there. But yeah, so then they also get then the Clippers obviously get Maxi Kleber, a nice young center that can space the floor really well. And they also get DeLon Wright, obviously, which is a great player, which is a good backup player, at least if I have to say that, obviously. And then they get a 2020 second round pick from the Golden State Warriors, which is definitely nice, obviously. More draft picks is definitely good for the Clippers. So now let's hop into trade number 8. So the 8th team is the Denver Nuggets. So the Nuggets are trading with the San Antonio Spurs as they receive guard Derek White from the Spurs, which is great for the Nuggets because they receive a backup point guard to play alongside Jamal Murray, and a high volume backup point guard that is just very explosive as well. So, and he could definitely shoot the 3-ball. And obviously the Spurs get the 2020 number 22 overall pick, which is a first round pick, and Keita Bates-Diop, and obviously Monte Morris as a backup point guard. So this is great for the Spurs because they're getting number 22 overall pick in the draft, another first round pick, and they're obviously getting Keita Bates-Diop, which is a young and up-and-coming player in the NBA. Obviously, he can be good with the Spurs with Greg Popovich. Imagine if he develops him well. He's shown potential, obviously, with the Timberwolves and obviously the Nuggets. So yeah, so I mean, he could definitely be a nice player for them. And they obviously also get Monte Morris, which is a great backup point guard for them, for the Spurs, because they just got rid of Derek White. But yeah, so now they get another backup point guard to fill up his spot, which is similar to White's play. White's probably a little better offensively than him, but still not bad, definitely, for the San Antonio Spurs. And for the Nuggets, they obviously get Derek White, a great sharpshooter from 3 and a great guard that can play alongside Jamal Murray. But yeah, so now we're going to hop into trade number 9. So the 9th team is the Detroit Pistons. So the 9th trade is actually really good and interesting because it's with the Detroit Pistons and Bulls. So the Pistons are receiving the 2020 4th overall pick, Chandler Hutchinson and Luke Cornett, and the Bulls receive number 7 overall pick in 2020 and Derrick Rose. So Derrick Rose comes back to Chicago. That is really good right there. And obviously the Pistons received the number 4th pick to trade up with the Bulls, and they obviously get number 4, which means that they can get like a Tyrese Halliburton, they can get a Killian Hayes, which I think is more likely for them. And if LaMelo falls to 4, obviously they're going to be happy with him, but probably not. But you know what I'm saying? So I mean, they have really good options. They can get like a Denny from the number 4th pick. They can get a ton of other players. So yeah, that's definitely not bad for the Detroit Pistons because they're moving up. And for the Chicago Bulls, they get the number 7th overall pick, and they get the reuniting connection with Derrick Rose, and that would definitely be nice with the Bulls. Rose didn't consider that it's impossible that he comes back, so he definitely probably wants to come back to Chicago to redeem himself, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, so that would be actually really interesting. That would actually turn around the league and look like back in like 2012, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, so, and obviously the Pistons get Chandler Hutchinson and Luke Cornett, 2 young guys that can still develop. I think that's definitely nice. But now we're going to hop into trade number 10. So the 10th team is the Golden State Warriors. So the 10th trade is the Warriors receiving Dennis Smith Jr. from the New York Knicks, as well as Taj Gibson for a 2020 second round pick from the Utah Jazz from the Warriors to the Knicks. So for the Knicks, this trade means that they probably gave up on Dennis Smith Jr. and Taj Gibson doesn't really matter for them that much because he's a veteran big, which they don't really need as much. So they get a 2020 second round pick. Maybe they believe in that type of pick from the Utah Jazz, which is like in the mid second round picks, obviously, like in the 40s area probably. But yeah, so this isn't bad for the Knicks. This isn't terrible, but I think I'd still keep Dennis Smith Jr. on the roster, give him a few more years until his contract expires, and then just let him go if anything. But yeah, so if nothing actually worked out even with Tom Thibodeau. But yeah, so the Warriors obviously get a decent player in Dennis Smith Jr. that can be a backup to Steph, obviously, and Clay. And obviously they get Taj Gibson, a center that they definitely need big time because he could help out with the rebounding and the explosiveness on dunks and stuff, and playing well defense. So he's still not bad if he plays for a contending team, which the Warriors will definitely be in the next season, obviously. So I think this is a trade they should consider. The Knicks probably won't do this if I were them, but if they don't give up Dennis Smith, then maybe, but it's probably unlikely that it's just going to be Taj Gibson for a second, but maybe it will, you never know. But yes, so if it'd be Dennis Smith, I'd give up 2 or 3 second-round picks at least from the Warriors for Dennis Smith Jr. because he's still a young player, obviously. At the end of the day, you never know if he can develop. I mean, he's been doing well in the Knicks practice, obviously, so you never know. But yeah, so now we're going to hop into trade number 11. So trade number 11 is with the Houston Rockets. So trade number 11 is with the Rockets and the 76ers. So the Rockets receive Al Horford, which is a great center for the team. The 2021 first round pick, which is lottery protected from the Sixers, and a 2021 second round pick from the New York Knicks. And Philadelphia 76ers receive Eric Gordon, Daniel House Jr., and Austin Rivers. So this is good for both teams because the 76ers get rid of Al Horford's huge contract. They obviously have to give up 2 picks, a first and a second, in 2021, and that's good though because they get rid of Al Horford's big contract, which is big for them. They get an expiring contract with Eric Gordon. They get Daniel House Jr., which isn't a bad player, obviously, and he could definitely knock down the 3-ball space up the floor for them, so they could definitely keep him, which isn't bad. And they obviously get Austin Rivers, but another expiring contract. But yes, so the Rockets get Al Horford, which isn't bad for them. Even though he's a huge contract, they don't even care probably about that much because they want to win a championship, and Horford helps them increase their chances on it. So definitely like that idea. And they get draft capital right there. They get 2021 first round pick and second round pick, so that's definitely not bad. That's actually a great deal for the Rockets. For the Sixers, it's also a not great deal, but it's a good deal because they're getting rid of their huge mistake in signing Al Horford to a huge long-term contract, and obviously they're now getting obviously rid of it, so that's not bad for them. But now let's hop into trade number 12. So the 12th team is the Indiana Pacers. So the trade will be trading both disgruntled players to swap teams in between Buddy Hield and Victor Oladipo. So the Kings receive Victor Oladipo, a great shooting guard star that is with De'Aaron Fox and Marvin Bagley and those guys. And the Pacers receive Buddy Hield and a 2020 second round pick. So that's definitely nice for the Pacers as well because the Pacers receive a great sharpshooter and floor spacer in Buddy Hield and an up-and-coming star, obviously. So this is a great swap because both were disgruntled players on their rosters. So now they're swapping teams, and now they're probably going to be much more happier that they're on a different roster. But yeah, so now let's get into trade number 14. So the 14th team will be the Los Angeles Clippers. So the trade will be with the Indiana Pacers as the Clippers receive a great center, a great young center, and a great defensive center, Miles Turner. And the Pacers receive a ton of players. With Zubac, they get Landry Shamet, they get Rodney McGruder, they get a 2020 second round pick. So that's definitely nice for the Pacers because they receive they're trading away a disgruntled player per reports. Obviously, we don't really know for sure, but apparently he's also like Victor Oladipo, that he's disgruntled. And they get Landry Shamet, Zubac, who's played well for the Clippers definitely in the playoffs. So they get a ton of young players, and they obviously get a 2020 second round pick. So this is great for both teams. And now let's hop into trade number 15. So the 15th team is the Los Angeles Lakers. So the trade will be the Los Angeles Lakers receiving Gordon Hayward, an elite small forward that could definitely help out LeBron James in the offensive side of it and obviously play good defense. And the Celtics receive a ton of things. They get a ton of players in Danny Green, Kyle Kuzma, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, KCP, and they also get a 2023 second round pick. So this is great for the Celtics and the Lakers. The Lakers, I've already talked about, receive a great experienced player in Gordon Hayward, and obviously the Celtics receive Danny Green, Kyle Kuzma, and 2023 second round picks. So that's a great. So obviously the Celtics receive younger players Instead of Gordon Hayward, they received Kyle Kuzma. That's definitely good with Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Kemba Walker, and now Kuzma on the team. Danny Green, a nice sharpshooter, and obviously KCP, another great sharpshooter that can play more defense, as well as obviously Danny Green can also play great defense. And they get a 2023 second-round pick, and they offload Gordon Hayward's contract off the team. This is just a perfect trade for the Lakers. For the Celtics. And for the Lakers, this is also great because they're receiving a great star in Gordon Hayward that could definitely help out LeBron James. And I think that's a great idea because he's a great sharpshooter, he's a great defender, and he can just play really good offense especially. So I definitely like this trade for both teams. And now let's hop into trade number 16. So team number 16 are the Memphis Grizzlies. So the trade will be Memphis Grizzlies receiving an all-star in Zach LaVine, an all-star shooting guard that can play really well at the shooting guard position, and just really explosive, great sharpshooter, and great defensive player obviously also. And the Bulls received Brandon Clark, a great young player, Dylan Brooks, another great sharpshooter and a great shooting guard, and a young player obviously, and another young player in Grayson Allen. So basically the Bulls are receiving a ton of young players for Zach LaVine. So I don't know if they would do this, but this is a great trade for both teams because the Grizzlies obviously get Ja and Zach LaVine, the good backcourt, the great backcourt duo, and that's just great to compete for another playoff run. So that's definitely nice for the Grizzlies. And for the Bulls, they're getting 3 young great players in Grayson Allen, a great defensive player, and then they always get obviously Brandon Clark, which is a great player that possibly can be a star in the future. You never know if he develops well in the Bulls. And the Bulls just have another great young core with Kobe White, Wendell Carter, Larry Markkinen, and now they obviously also have Brandon Clark and Grayson Allen, and those guys right there. So that's definitely nice for the Bulls. The young core gets bigger and better obviously the whole time. And yes, that's just definitely a great deal for both teams. And now let's hop into trade number 17. So the 17th team is the Miami Heat. So this is a huge deal coming in from the Philadelphia 76ers, as the Heat receive superstar center Joel Embiid, and the Sixers receive Bam Adebayo, another great superstar center, which is an up-and-coming center, obviously young player right now, and he's just developing into a better and better player. And they get Kendrick Nunn, a great backup or starter point guard for them. And obviously they get and Kendrick Nunn is obviously young, and they get Andre Iguodala, so that's definitely not bad for them, because there have been reports that Joel Embiid hasn't really been happy in Philly, so maybe another disgruntled star, you never know. Not saying that I believe those rumors, but just possible. So Bam Adebayo for the Sixers would be amazing, and he has barely any health issues if he even does. So Joel Embiid definitely had some injuries, scary ones, so he has some health issues before, but now they're getting a player that's similar to Embiid, that if he develops his jump shot in Bam Adebayo. So it's definitely nice if he actually is going to be able to pull off this trade. If Elton Brand or actually Pat Riley can pull off this trade for both sides, so that would be nice because Bam. And obviously they get not Tyler Hero. I was about to say Tyler Hero. They get Kendrick Nunn as well for Embiid. So that's definitely not bad. They get Iguodala, another great player. Kelly Olynyk they also get. So that's definitely nice for both teams. Now let's hop into trade number 18. So team number 18 is the Milwaukee Bucks. So the trade will be the Bucks receiving an all-star shooting guard, at least in my opinion, in CJ McCollum. And the Blazers receive shooting guard Dante DiVincenzo, point guard George Hill. They get DJ Wilson as well as Ersan Ilyasova. And they get 2 first-round picks, the number 24 overall pick in the 2020 NBA draft from the Indiana Pacers, and the 2024 first-round pick, which is lottery protected from the Blazers. So this is a huge deal for both sides, because the Blazers are getting a ton of young players, as well as George Hill and Ilyasova, and they're getting 2 big first-round picks for them. That's great, but I don't know if they would really want to part ways with McCollum, but if they do, then this is a great trade for them. And the Bucks obviously receive McCollum to lure Giannis to stay on the Bucks whenever he becomes a free agent. So this is huge for both sides. And yeah, so now we're gonna hop into trade number 19. So the 19th team is the Minnesota Timberwolves. So the trade will be for Lauri Markkanen. Then Timberwolves are getting the number 4th pick and Lauri Markkanen. So they're getting their reunion back with Lauri Markkanen, which is actually also interesting. They get the number 4th overall pick, and obviously the deal is surrounding the number 1 overall pick for the Bulls, as they get the first pick in the 2020 NBA draft. And they get young player Josh Okogie, which is really good on defense, and Jake Layman, which is another great floor spacer and a sharpshooter, obviously. So this is great for both sides. For the Timberwolves, this is good because they are getting they're getting the number 4th pick, which isn't bad, and they're getting a great young player in Lauri Markkanen. And the Bulls are obviously getting the 1st overall pick, so that's great for both sides, and definitely good for the Timberwolves and the Bulls, because they're both getting they're both swapping picks, number 1 and number 4. Timberwolves aren't likely to probably keep number 1 pick. They're probably going to trade it, if I would assume. But yeah, so this is great once again for both teams. And now we're going to hop in to trade number 20. So the 20th team is the New Orleans Pelicans. So the Pelicans are getting Miles Turner in return for JJ Redick and Josh Hart. So Miles Turner for the Pelicans is great because they're adding a great center to be a starter, and Jackson Hayes being the backup center for them. That's a great duo right there with centers. And obviously he's alongside Zion and Lonzo and those players right there, in Ingram, obviously. And the Pacers receive an expiring contract in Redick, and Josh Hart, a nice young guard that could play defense and space up the floor. So Miles Turner anyways is disgruntled for the team. They're probably not going to do this trade out of all, but this is just a nice idea, and just another option for them if they can't pull off a different trade, obviously, for the Pacers. But yeah, so now we're going to hop into trade number 21. So the team number 21 is the New York Knicks, my favorite team, obviously. So the Knicks receive the number 1 overall pick, which will be LaMelo Ball for sure, and James Johnson. And the Timberwolves get the number 8th overall pick from the Knicks, a 2021 first-round pick from the Dallas Mavericks, and they get, which was from the Porzingis trade. And they get a great defensive point guard in Frank Ntilikina, and Taj Gibson, a veteran center. So that's definitely nice for the Timberwolves because they're receiving more draft picks. They're getting the number 8th overall pick, which can get a Devin Vassell, Deni Avdija, whichever one they like. And then they get a 2021 first, and they get Taj Gibson, so Frank can be their backup point guard for defensive purposes, obviously. So help out D'Angelo Russell at times. So, and the Knicks obviously get their favorite player from the draft, which is obviously LaMelo Ball. So the Knicks get LaMelo and get more hype in Madison Square Garden, obviously. And the Timberwolves get more draft picks, as well as Ntilikina, Gibson, and the number 8th overall pick, which probably can be like an Avdija of a cell to play alongside D'Lo and Cat, and to fit around them, obviously. So that's definitely nice for both teams. And now we're going to hop into trade number 22. So team number 22 is the Oklahoma City Thunder. So the trade is that they get Gary Harris, Will Barton, and Monte Morris for Chris Paul. And so the Thunder get rid of Chris Paul's huge contract, and obviously they build around Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, Dennis Schroeder, and those guys right there, Steven Adams, and all those players. And they obviously get Gary Harris, a great defensive shooting guard, a great small forward in Will Barton, and a great point guard in Monte Morris, a great backup point guard for Shea and Dennis Schroeder, obviously. So not bad. And they obviously get once again rid of Chris Paul's huge contract, and the Nuggets obviously get Chris Paul to be with Jamal Murray. So the point guard shooting guard connection is a great experiment for the Nuggets. I mean, I would say so. And then they obviously get and now they get a championship contender team, because now they have Chris Paul with his IQ, and they get Jamal Murray, who played literally so good in the playoffs. And then they obviously get Nikola Jokic out there, and now that's a great team, you know what I'm saying? So that's great for both sides. And yeah, so now we're gonna hop into trade number 23. So trade number 23 is with the Orlando Magic, and the Magic receive Darius Garland, and the Cleveland Cavaliers receive Mo Bamba. So I think this is great for both sides, because the Magic get another young point guard that can develop into a possibly great player in the NBA. I mean, he has the skills for that, you know what I'm saying? And then Obviously, the Cavs get Mo Bamba, a center that hasn't really proven himself much yet, but he definitely might because he has the skill set and the size, obviously, to do so. So you got the tools, you just got to complete them and put them all together, and maybe he can develop well on the Cavs. So that's great for both sides, just a swap. And yeah, so now we're going to hop into trade number 24. So trade number 24 is with the Philadelphia 76ers. So they received Drew Holiday and JJ Redick right back to the Sixers as a sharpshooter on the team. And obviously Drew Holiday, a star that can help them out with their championship title chances, obviously. So, and they give up to the New Orleans Pelicans. They give up the 2020 number 21 overall pick from the Oklahoma City Thunder, the 2022 first round pick, which is lottery protected from the 76ers, and Josh Richardson, which is big, and Al Horford's huge contract to make the salary work. So this is great for both sides because the 76ers receive an all-star type of player in Drew Holiday and JJ Redick, and JJ Redick, obviously the sharpshooter, and the Pelicans receive a ton of draft picks. Josh Richardson, which is a great young player, great young shooting guard to be alongside Zion and Ingram and the young core with Lonzo, Jackson Hayes, and that's just great for them. So this is great for both sides, and now we're gonna hop into trade number 25. So team number 25 is the Phoenix Suns. So the trade is for Marvin Bagley III and Nemanja Bjelica. I don't know how to say his name, but I think that's correct. And the Sacramento Kings receive Kelly Oubre and Cameron Johnson. So the Suns receive Bagley once again. Bagley hasn't really proven himself as the number 2 overall pick. Don't forget, he was the number 2 pick right after Aiden and right before Luka Doncic. So Sacramento Kings, they get Kelly Oubre for Bagley, another lefty. They're swapping lefties, and Oubre is similar to Bagley. I mean, he's similar in terms of like their style of play, but Oubre obviously shoots much better, and he's a more consistent scorer than Bagley. And yeah, so they're both similar players, but for the Suns, they get a great player, a number 1 and number 2 pick, which is DeAndre Ayton and Bagley, now together on the same team, which would be very interesting. And obviously they get Nemanja Bjelica, and then the Kings obviously get Cameron Johnson, which is a great sharpshooter from last year's draft. So I think that's a great idea for both teams. And now let's hop into trade number 26. So the team number 26 is the Portland Trail Blazers. So the trade is that they get DeMar DeRozan to pair up with Damian Lillard, CJ McCollum, a nice big 3, and obviously like Hassan Whiteside, Nurkic out there as a power forward, centers right there. And obviously the Spurs receive Zach Collins, a nice young power forward / center from the Trail Blazers, and they get Rodney Hood, a nice guard that can shoot the 3 ball, and they get Trevor Ariza, which is basically a salary, the guy that makes the salary work. Nothing really useful from him, and they get a 2020 second round pick. So that's definitely not bad for both teams. Let me know what you guys think about this trade, and now we're gonna go into trade number 27. So the 27th team is the Sacramento Kings. So the trade with the Kings and the Lakers is the Kings receiving Kyle Kuzma and Danny Green as a sharpshooter, and Kuzma was rumored to go to the Kings earlier in the season, obviously in the trade deadline. So Kuzma goes to the Kings finally, and the Lakers receive Bogdanovic via sign and trade. So that's definitely nice for both teams, because Lakers get a nice player to pair up with, a nice young player to pair up with LeBron and Bogdan that can space the floor and play defense and stuff like that. And Kuzma goes to the Kings, and he's a nice young player to play with Marvin Bagley, De'Aaron Fox, and Buddy Hield, and those type of guys right there. So yeah, so now we're going to hop into trade number 28. So the second to final team, the 28th team, is the San Antonio Spurs. So the trade between the Spurs and Mavericks is the 2020 number 18 overall pick from the Mavs to the Spurs now. And that's another, obviously, first round pick for the Spurs. That's great for them. And they get Maxi Kleber, a nice center that could space the floor. Dwight Powell, another nice center as well. And Justin Jackson, a pretty young player, obviously, that didn't develop yet that much. So You never know if the Dallas Mavericks or Spurs can develop him because they got Greg Popovich and stuff. So Dallas Mavericks receive LaMarcus Aldridge to pair up with Kristaps and Luka to make a big three. That would be deadly because like already Kristaps and Luka themselves were doing great, but now adding another all-star, another great player for the team that is really experienced is something deadly. You guys would want to watch out for the Mavericks if this actually turns out to happen. So this is a great trade. Now we're going to hop into trade number 29. So the 29th team will be the Toronto Raptors, and the trade will be with the Los Angeles Clippers as the Raptors receive a nice young center that played well in the playoffs once again, which is Zubac, and the shooting guard in Landry Shamet, which is another nice young shooting guard that can really shoot the ball really well. And that's for the Raptors. And the Clippers receive Serge Ibaka from sign and trade, so that's nice for both teams because the Raptors get two young players. That's great. And the Clippers get Serge Ibaka, which is great for them because now they're gonna have bigger chances to compete for a championship because now they got a new coach, which is probably gonna be Ty Lue. I'm not sure about who it is because they obviously fired Doc Rivers. And Serge Ibaka helps out with the defense and also can space the floor on offense. So that's great as a center for the Clippers. And that's not what Zubac could have done. He wasn't a floor spacing center. So that's what they bring with Ibaka's center abilities into the team. So now we're going to hop into the final team, trade number 30. So the 30th team is the Utah Jazz, and this is a very interesting one because the Jazz get Gordon Hayward back in a 3-team trade with the Philadelphia 76ers and the Boston Celtics, as well as the Jazz, obviously. So the Jazz get their all-star small forward, obviously, back, which is Gordon Hayward. That would actually help out right now. Gordon Hayward would definitely help out the Jazz be more of a contender because now they got Donovan Mitchell, and then they got Hayward now, and now they got Gobert. And that's definitely a nice big three, as well as Mike Conley. I mean, now they're getting rid of Conley, but just get that into mind because the Philadelphia 76ers are getting Mike Conley from the Jazz, a great point guard to play alongside Simmons and Embiid. And obviously the Celtics get Tobias Harris from Philly, 2021 first-round pick, which is lottery protected, and it is from the 76ers. So that's definitely nice right there because the Jazz already get, Gordon Hayward. The Sixers receive another great point guard, and another former All-Star point guard, which is Mike Conley. And the Celtics receive Tobias Harris, which is great for their players, and a nice mentor and a nice floor spacer, a nice All-Star small forward or power forward, Tobias Harris, which can help out Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Kemba, and Enes Kanter for now, as they have, and all those players right there. So that's definitely good because they're adding another star talent, more star power for the team. That's a real serious contender if that actually happens for the Boston Celtics, as well as the Sixers and Jazz. So these are all contending type of trades right here. So now we're going to hop in to the one and final trade. I thought there was none more, but there's one more team that I forgot to mention about. So now we're going to go into that final trade. So the last and final team is the Washington Wizards. So the trade for the Wizards and Magic is that the Wizards get the All-Star center in Nikola Vucevic and the 2020 number 15 overall pick from the Magic, and the Magic get the 2029th overall pick. So they go up 6 spots in the 2020 draft to possibly get a great player from the draft, obviously. And they get Thomas Bryant. They get Thomas Bryant, and they get Troy Brown Jr., Jerome Robinson, and Ish Smith. That's a lot of young players, great young players, because I like Troy Brown Jr.'s game. Thomas Bryant is a great center filler for Nikola Vucevic, and they get the 9th overall pick, which might be like an Onyeka Okongwu if they're not really satisfied with Thomas Bryant being their starting center. I like him as a backup, but if they get Okongwu or Obi Toppin, then they are set, definitely. This is going to be a win-win for them. But the Wizards also receive Nikola Vucevic to pair up with Bradley Beal and John Wall, and that is great for them. And they get the number 15th overall pick, which they possibly can get a steal in the draft with that pick, you know what I'm saying? So that is definitely nice for them. And if Devin Vassell falls to that, which is probably not going to happen, but if he does and they're winning this draft as a steal, but it's probably not happening. So yeah, so if you guys did enjoy this like 40-minute video, I mean, I really took the time and effort to make this video for you guys. It's for all NBA fans that have a favorite team. This is for all of you guys, at least one part of this video. So if you guys did enjoy this video, make sure to smash that like button to show your support. It was Alan here from KNYT, and I'm out. Peace.